take the conversations out in the hallway, please. First of all, just for general organization and procedure, good morning all senators. What? I see one. Okay. Up two, there's a second. Microphone helps too. Good morning. I'm loud. We do not anticipate clearing our docket this morning. I'm sorry. How I intend to proceed, we will momentarily take in a block all Senate bills that we have heard already, and we will just summarily in a block vote. They're identical. We will pass them out to the floor of the House. So if the senator is in the room or staff here of interest in those matters, that's how it's going to be handled. There are two measures that are exceptions to that. One, Senator Deeds has an amendment to a measure, and another, the motion will need to be to report some further appropriations. After which, we will start taking up Senate patrons. If we don't have Senate patrons, we will then take up measures that were similar to House bills we've heard. And without the Senate present, we would anticipate they don't object to us conforming and reporting. And so that would be the action we will go. At that juncture, if we don't have senators, we won't take up their bills. With one minor exception, I think we have a bill before us that was heard in courts and favorably recommended. We will take that matter up and go ahead. We don't need to send it to courts. The court's authority with us and go from there. So if that makes sense to everybody, how we're going to proceed this morning. Additionally, I have had one request from stakeholders. Senate Bill 1239 has been requested by stakeholder group to go by for the day. That does not, any bill that goes by for the day, by the way, does not put the measure in jeopardy in the least. On the schedule, we've got 2 more meetings if we need to use them, and we're definitely going to need to be here Tuesday. So, Senate Bill 1239 by for the day. Alrighty, then committee members in a block. Senate Bill 848, Senator Wexton, Senate Bill 891, Senator Chapin, Senate Bill 1009, Donovan, 1046, Stanley, 1050, Edwards, 1164, Reeves, 1179, Chapin, 1191, Sturdivant, 1221, Barker, 1232, Donovan, 1321 Carrico, and 1323 Carrico are all identical to companion House measures we have affirmatively and unanimously acted on in this, well, not necessarily unanimously, but we've affirmatively acted on in this committee. I didn't, you did. So, without objection, committee members, in a block.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Can we add in 1511?
1511, the senator's here. He's going to be proposing a minor amendment, so we mean no violence. We're okay. I ain't going to do the man in. He used to be one of us. All right.
And Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
1086 as well, is that coming out of that one?
We're going to need to report and refer that to appropriations. We've received communication on that matter. All other measures will be reported to the floor. Any other questions on the block vote? Committee members, record your vote on the board. On the 20 bills, what's that? Move to report?
I move to report the bills in the block.
Second?
Second.
Boom, okay, we're doing it by general consensus, but this works well. Okay. Members, record your vote on the board to report all 20 bills that are identical to 20 bills we've acted on previously. If all members voted, you care to be recorded? Those bills are voted out 15 to nothing. Boom. Are we efficient? All right. Senator Deeds, go forward, please. 1511.
This is a bill that's identical to our House Bill 1548 that Peter Farrell had. It deals with advanced directives for people who are in mental health crisis. It expands the list of people who can help make decisions when amendment that's been requested is one that would add licensed clinical social worker, those who are able to help make the decision, and that just reflects the reality that in many cases, those are the people providing treatment.
All right, Sarah, would you report the amendment, please?
Yes, there are 3 line amendments to the bill to add in the licensed clinical social workers. The first amendment is on line 39, after nurse practitioner, comma, strike the or. Second amendment will be in that same line after the Romanet 4 to insert a licensed clinical social worker, comma, or Romanet 5. And your third line amendment will be on line 42 after nurse practitioner, comma, insert licensed clinical social worker, comma.
All right, everybody understands the amendment, without objection, we'll adopt that amendment. A general consensus here and none is properly now attached to the bill. Thank you. Delegate Bell, you had a question?
I do, and it's really more for staff and for Senator Deeds. So, Sarah, with this, I'm sorry, I have a question for staff.
Yeah, that's fine.
Sarah, with this change, I just want to make sure it still is only saying whether they give the authority to someone else, and then again, that authority is only whether or not to enter the institution. It has no other impact on all the other healthcare decisions. It's just, and this says, this is another person who can say, you're somebody who's in a position where we need dad to come in and make the decision for you.
Yes, that is accurate.
Okay. Does it change?
Further question?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And in terms of the people that can help them prepare it, does it also, did we add that there also, or was that left? Remember, we were kind of paralleling them.
Oh, for the second set of changes we were making, is that what you're?
Yes.
They are already included in that list, they were just left out the first section.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, other questions from anyone on the committee? I'm sorry. This came- All right. Senator, just to let you know procedurally what happened. The train ran a little too quick and 1511 just got in the last block we voted. However, staff tells me we can correct that without having to unwrap the whole axle and reconsider and revote, yada, yada. So on this matter, what we're going to do is a separate sheet vote. All those in favor of reporting Senate Bill 1511 as amended, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. So the bill is reported unanimously, and the clerk will report that. And it'll be,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 1062 was one that was identical to one that you already had, but I didn't hear it in the block. I don't know if it's one you've taken up or not. Is it similar or identical?
I believe it's a similar. It's a.
I don't have,
It's,
1062 is
1062 definition of mental health service provider.
We had heard the, no, yeah, we had it.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Delegate Bell.
So there's a measure identical to this that went through courts, but we reported it out and it was unanimous, I believe. Okay, so everyone out here has already voted for it in the way that it already was in House bill, even though it didn't go through this committee. We could procedurally send it to courts and report it from there. There's no
So
reason.
Delegate Bell moves to
No,
report.
let's report it from here.
well, you could just conform it to the House bill if there's a difference.
So,
So that's what I'm saying.
Move to
I thought it
report.
was identical.
thank you.
Thought I was right.
Second.
Then move properly seconded to report Senate Bill 1062. All members record your vote on the board on the motion to report. Senator Deeds and all other senators are seeing we have a new, I won't say improved voting system, but a new.
Technology's great.
All members voted and care to be recorded. 1062 is reported, 15 to none.
Thank you very much.
I saw Senator Hanger come in, Senate Bill 1239 is going to go by for the day. That's the only one you're here for.
I had 4 of them.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Okay, we'll get it. All righty. Do we have the electronic cue? All right, so then, senators. Senator Waxton. Good morning. You have several before us. Committee members, give your attention, please. Which bill first, Senator?
I have several fine bills to share with you today. The first is Senate Bill 1086, which is,
Committee members, please.
this is, the
All right,
substance.
excuse me, Senator. Committee members, please. Senate Bill 1086.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Senate Bill 1086 is identical to the bill carried by Delegate Stolle, having to do with substance exposed infants.
I apologize, Senator. That was a matter, we have received a letter. We have seen this identical measure. The motion on this, if the committee sees favorably to act as we did on the House measure, would be to report and refer to appropriations. Been moved, properly seconded, to report and refer Senate Bill 1086, House Appropriations. Once staff is ready and the computer is caught up with us, it should be fine, I believe, with money in the
Tell
budget.
Senator Wexton, the House budget has funding for this, so
I'm glad to hear that.
don't get your feathers.
I was a little concerned. I know it's in the Senate.
Report and refer to appropriations. All righty, members, record your vote. Motion to report and refer Senate Bill 1086. Yeah, the system still doesn't like us. There we go, it's liking some of us. All members voted who care to be reported. Senate Bill 1086 is reported and referred 16 to none. Yes, Delegate Price, or we close it.
17.
All right, can she get her? Boom. Well, anyone else? All righty. Report and referred 17 to nothing. Senator Waxman.
Chairman, if we could next do Senate Bill 897. It is identical, well, it requires some amendment to be, a couple amendments to be identical to the bill that was carried by the Finance Committee.
Am I correct, Senator? I believe my measure was the House cognate, and so without objection, we'll adopt amendment nature. Were they line amendments? Go ahead, Sarah, and tell us what the
Yes,
measure is.
Senate Bill 897 is similar but not identical, so it's in that section of your document. Similar but not identical to HB 1568.
It has the enactment clauses with a one-year sunset, and if the feds lower their bar, we immediately drop to the lower standard.
Exactly, that, and there's a very non-technical amendment.
So without objection, we will conform this measure to my House bill. Hearing none, the matter is properly amended. Committee members, what is your pleasure? This would need to go to approach, but I'm not sure why, but they want it up there, so yeah, we should, mine went through.
Mr. Chairman, I would be there anyway, fair.
Motion is to report and refer to appropriations.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Point of order. That's not right. Parliamentary inquiry. Was this the bill that the committee vote was split? Just trying to keep track of
There were some negatives on this because this was a measure, as I explained at that time, the religious community still did not like the bill. I do not like the bill. I do not like the fact we have to do the bill. But the alternative, if you vote no, then the state loses $2.7 million that we currently are able to provide for child care subsidies, and that would mean we have more kids who go into latchkey unsupervised settings.
Just trying to make sure.
Yeah, I understand. So remember how you voted before, you might want to do the same thing for consistency. Motion is to report and refer to appropriations, and I apologize to audience, if I don't give you a chance, jump. Come on up, you're welcome on any of these matters, and I'm trying to slow down. Any of the audience be heard on the measure? Obviously, everybody else is ready to vote except me.
Senator Stanley wants to talk on it.
Delegate O'Bannon, do you care to be recorded? All members voted who care to be recorded. Bill is reported and referred to appropriations 12 to 4. Okay, Senator West, you're on a roll. Good morning. Yeah.
Good day. So far, let's see. Still got one more, and that's Senate Bill 1434. This does not have a House companion, but it is basically just cleanup language from a bill that I carried last year.
Committee members, give your attention, Senate Bill 1434.
Last year, I was before this committee, trying to close a loophole that had become apparent in our background check laws for institutions that continue to employ someone during that 3, which could become 5-year period, after they're hired, when they learn that somebody has either been convicted of a barrier crime or been the subject of a founded complaint of abuse or neglect during that period of time in between the initial hiring and when they have their recheck performed. My original bill in the Senate had only applied to daycare settings, but when I came over here to the House, in your great wisdom, you improved my bill enormously by adding assisted living and nursing homes to that same prohibition. Unbeknownst to me, at the time, we had an oversight wherein in those settings, in the nursing home and assisted living settings, they are able to employ people who have one barrier crime, one misdemeanor barrier crime not involving abuse or neglect. So they were left in this situation where they could hire people initially who had those barrier crimes, but they could not continue to employ those that they had already hired. This was clearly an oversight, so the nursing home folks came to me and asked me to put in Senate Bill 1434 to clean it up. That's what it does.
Any members, pretty straightforward. Any questions or discussion from the committee?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir. Now we go.
I'm completely lost. So this is not a, when I say I don't know, I honestly don't know. So we have the current barrier crime list. I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, can I just try to
Yes,
figure
go
out?
ahead.
We have the current barrier crime list that applies to these facilities that we cannot employ.
That's correct.
Okay. And I'm trying to pull up your bill from last year, but what did we do last year?
We added just the language "continue to employ," so it says they may either hire for employment, and we added "or continue to employ."
Okay. And so the current law prior to this year's bill, so the law as of today, is what? What are you changing? What's the current law? What are you changing? Give me a concrete example of a person that would.
Would it be accurate, right now, if there's somebody employed, that would have to terminate them, that would meet these criteria, but the person could be hired new, so the effect would be, they would have to fire them and say, by the way, come back next week and we'll hire you back.
That's correct, and that clearly was not the intention of the legislation.
Okay. That's it.
Okay.
Further
I
question?
have a subject matter expert.
I'm not trying to ask hard questions.
Right.
I'm trying to make sure I
No, no.
understand the bill.
Right.
Is it for someone who commits the offense this week, or is it for somebody that they find, and how does it ever come up?
Yes.
Dana Parsons, Legislative Counsel with Leading Age Virginia. The issue arose because when the law went into effect, we were receiving questions about whether someone could continue to be employed who had been convicted of one misdemeanor crime not involving abuse and neglect. That statute and provision remained in the code, so therefore we felt that this was needed just to clarify that that provision was still.
Appreciate everybody, you believe it's a good bill, I understand, I'm just trying to understand what it does. So give me a fact pattern when this would ever come up. Was it that, I'm not following how it could look back 5 years unless somebody didn't tell you in the job application, or
Okay.
because the law passed and people had been there already, or what was that?
It could come up in the following example. So when the law went into effect, communities were doing some additional checks to ensure that they were not employing anyone who'd been convicted of a barrier crime. There were those people that surfaced that had been convicted of one barrier crime not involving abuse and neglect. They were calling to ask our association, does this law say that we can no longer continue to employ them? And that would not be the case. They could continue to employ that person who had been convicted of one misdemeanor crime not involving abuse or neglect.
Okay, again,
Further question?
I'm not trying to be hard here, I don't get it. Is this someone who did not provide the information? There's a 5-year look back, so it can't be something new. How is someone continuing to employ?
Well, Delegate Bell, I think the problem, this is not a shifted policy. The policy and what the law in Virginia has been for some years, and many of you have been here a lot longer than I have and may be able to know, when that exception was added for those nursing home facilities, that they are able to hire somebody when they do their initial background check who has a misdemeanor barrier crime that is not involving abuse or neglect. The problem arose, or the reason that this became an issue, is because with my bill last HWI, by adding those facilities, which I had not originally intended to, they were left in a position where we created this inconsistency, where they were entitled to hire people, and they had people on their staff who had these barrier crimes, but because the continue to employ language was added to that particular portion of the legislation, they couldn't keep them, they would not have been able to keep them in their employment, and so I think that's why.
The change was the law change, not the change in their posture of status.
Correct, yeah,
Yeah,
it was
Okay,
It was
good.
on us,
Further questions on Senate Bill 1434 from the committee? Anyone in the audience will be heard on the measure before the committee takes action. Committee members, what is your pleasure on Senate Bill 1434? It's been moved, properly seconded to report Senate Bill 1434. There's no further discussion. Committee members record the vote on the board. Don't take this personally. No.
Mr. Chairman, you're the one who's gonna have to explain it off for us.
I'm trying. Vote me aye, please. Doesn't like this. Wow. All members voted and care to be recorded. Bill is reported 15 to nothing. Thank you, Senator Wexler. All righty. This gentleman, senators who had bills that were identical to House companion measures, they're gone. They're done. Okay? Senator Sturtevant, I believe, is next on our list. Not here. Senator Carrico, not here. Senator McPike, not here. Moving right on. Senator Cos.
He's here.
Oh, McPike, come forward. No, he's hiding. Okay. I know I didn't see him out there. Senator McPike, you have several.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
Good morning.
Let's do 1461.
Committee members, give your attention to Senate Bill 1461.
Senate Bill 1461 is some follow-up work based on the Fostering Futures program that we passed last year. It allows for the opt-out in terms of their Medicaid coverage for these foster kids enrollees. So 18, they'll do a check back in, get their enrollment, and so it basically allows an auto enrollment. It's an eligible population, so there's no physical impact to it, but it really helps to connect and smooth out the process and dots on the Fostering Futures program. And that's the essence of the bill.
Any questions of the committee on Senate Bill 1461? Mr. Chairman. Yes, sir. Delegate
Thank you,
Peake.
Mr. Chairman. Senator, so would you say this is a kind of technical bill? I mean, this is just to fix that one thing that you described. Is it an agency recommendation as well?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
All right, further friendly questions on Senate Bill 1461. Anyone in the audience will be heard on the measure before the committee takes action. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Kevin Bauer, Virginia Catholic Conference. We also support the bill.
Delegate Bell, you have a question?
I do. That's the patron. And is there expenses to this? How does this get paid?
They're currently eligible for the program, so there's no fiscal impact to it. It's a process, and DSS is already set up to handle this. And here's the gentleman himself who can speak to the technical.
Photo friendly, come on up.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, and Delegate Bell. Specifically to your question is, this was already supposed to be in place, but what we've had is we've had agencies that are means testing the children and actually testing them out of their Medicaid. So now we have children that are in a program, they're supposed to be eligible for Medicaid categorically instead of having to go through the means test. And all this bill says is that the system will auto-enroll them into that Medicaid. So all it is an AC category switch. So it's really just a technical cleanup to make sure for the children that are supposed to have their Medicaid, they get the Medicaid in the program.
Further question, Delegate? Delegate Pope.
Thank you, I have a question. I used to do foster care kids. When they turn 18, if they were in medical assistance prior to their 18th birthday, but they're aging out of foster care, correct? How long will their Medicaid eligibility last? Does it last till they're age 26?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. If you age out of foster care only, then your eligibility continues up until age 26.
Any further questions from the committee? Others in the audience to be heard on the measure? Move to report.
Second.
It's been moved properly second. Any with the audience to be heard before the committee takes action on the motion to report? Anyone coming forward, committee members, record your vote on the board. The motion to report, Senate Bill 1461. Have all members voted who care to be recorded? Senate Bill is reported for 17 to nothing. Next, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Senate Bill 1462.
1462, committee member.
This is a bill that deals with financial exploitation of seniors. I know this committee also had a similar bill from Delegate Bell. We discussed some of the provisions, and I like what he's done as well. I think we sort of have the components of A, B, and C, and I've got D and E to this. I think we're both seeking, my bill addresses removing the $50,000 financial threshold. We have existing MOUs between local police and state police where if they don't have the technical expertise to investigate these financial crimes, they can reach out. Some localities do, like Henrico, Chesterfield, Virginia Beach, others have some expertise where they can do it in-house at any threshold. So it really is, my component is to remove the $50,000 threshold, as well as provide a framework that the local agency will provide the reporting agency with a local contact. In other words, who is the investigative detective or assignees that'll handle those cases. So I know Delegate Bell has some additional components as well, which I think are also valuable.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Delegate Bell.
So, we had both bills did one thing, which is said you gotta report to local law enforcement. And then he had a good idea that says the local law enforcement agencies should provide local departments with their preferred point of contact. Mine required an additional notice to the state police. And what I would suggest would be we add basically add the language from mine, but keep his other good idea that mine didn't have. That might save us all a confidential.
Sarah, do you have that language?
I don't have it available, but what we would do is a substitute that would essentially take Delegate Bell's language from House Bill 1922 and then add in the language on lines 61 and 62 of Senator Pike's bill regarding.
Senator Pike, would you mind if we just let this bill go by for the day and let you and Delegate Bell work out the language? And I would anticipate if we do that Tuesday, you wouldn't necessarily need to come back and present, but rather Delegate Bell can present for you, and we can take it up at that time if that's agreeable.
That would be fine.
All right. Senate Bill 1462 by for the day.
And the next bill, Mr. Chairman, is
Item 22.
Senate Bill 1122. Senate Bill 1122 really seeks out to update the current information we collect in the Department of Social Services. Currently, we collect a name and an address. If many of you are like you and me, or your dentist, you might get a text from your dentist on your appointment. We're actually not collecting and identifying email and other data right now. So this bill seeks out to require that collection of data. And you probably dealt with some constituent complaints like I have, where someone gets kicked off the systems, where they move between an aunt's house and an uncle's house. The mail goes to the one house but not to the other, and now they're booted out of the system. So this really seeks to add additional points of collection. It is 2017, and hopefully we can start using some technology in our business process. And I know Appropriations has requested as well also.
As we say, the Committee Appropriations has requested to see this bill if we act favorably on the policy. Questions of the patron?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir. Delegate Bell.
And that's the patron. So it's great to have the additional information. Does this change any of the requirements of how you legally notify someone of a change? Just an example you just used, which is, for whatever reason, someone's being taken off of the program.
Yep.
They need to receive legal notice. I don't want to create a situation where they give us 4 IDs and one of them phone number. Does it change anything about the requirements, what has to happen?
It doesn't. If we would want to do that, there would be some additional language, which would be to state, for instance, that all notices must be sent by direct mail to the applicant, but no adverse action. We could include that language if that's what you were seeking.
And I go the other direction, which is I'm not, Mr. Chair. If I could ask that.
Yes, sir.
So we already in the law say which method we have to provide, right? In other words, for whatever, someone's coming up on the end of their benefits, or something coming up where we need to send them some kind of legal notice, do we set some of the code, tell them how to do that? I think it's great to tell them 3 different ways. I just want to be in a position where they told them 2 out of the 3 or something, it would change the rules and things.
be sent via direct mail. It wouldn't change any of those. It basically just increases the amount of information we have about applicants.
I wonder if you're going to leave him swinging.
Mr. Chair, Tom Steinhaus with the department, this wouldn't change anything, we'll collect the information, the more we can use it to notify people of appointments and things, we can use it then. Other notices that have to be mailed because of legal requirements, we'll continue to use regular mail.
Tom, is it really going to cost $4 million to do this?
The idea is if we do this, there's certain notices that, if the client opts to get email, we can email it to them. So we would have to modify the system to do that.
You might get asked that question up on the night before, I suspect. Anyone with the audience will be heard on Senate Bill 1122 before the committee takes action. Been moved, properly seconded, report to refer, Senate Bill 1122, appropriations. There's no further discussion or public comment. Committee members report to vote on the bill. All members voted, care to be recorded. Those reporting refer 19 to nothing. Thank you, Senator. Senator Cosgrove. Good morning. Senate Bill 941.
Yes, sir. Senate Bill 941, I believe, is identical to House Bill 1784, carried by Delegate Bell.
This bill is not a bill that HWI has seen, so it's in the new to HWI bills section of your docket. It is, however, identical to House Bill 1784, Delegate Bell's bill that went through the House Committee on Courts and reported 20-0 from that committee.
So it is identical to one that we voted on before already. Seems like that.
Mr. Chairman, to report it, just report it.
Second. Moved properly seconded, report Senate Bill 941. Anyone in the audience be heard since this is the first time we've seen the measure? If not, committee members, if there are no questions, record your vote on the board to report. All members voted, care to be recorded. Reported 19-0. Thank you, Con. Sorry to keep you around.
Thank you.
All right, Senator Bavola. And Senator, just to remind any of you who want a bill to go by for the day, just let us know. It won't put it in any jeopardy if you just need more time. We're not going to clear our docket today anyway. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. I have 6 bills before you, and I will
I know that you were busy.
I will just present them in consecutive order. The
Senate
first,
Bill 894.
what bill would you like? I was going to start with Senate Bill 868, but
Okay, I'm sorry, yep.
is that okay?
868, my apologies.
Okay. Senate Bill 868, Child Protective Services. It's all this bill does is it directs the Department of Social Services to promulgate regulations that would require local departments of social services to respond to a valid report of child abuse or neglect within a 24-hour period. There is no cost implication to this. The department wants to move forward with this and has a plan to do so. This recommendation comes out of the 3-Branch Institute. And I know, Mr. Chairman, you were involved in the 3-Branch Institute. This happened to be the subcommittee that I was on child well-being. And I just want you to note that, the state has a higher infant mortality rate for children a year and younger, higher than the national average, and we really want to address this. So I respectfully ask that the committee pass this bill.
Delegate Bell, you have a question?
It's for the patron or maybe for the department.
Tom, Mark, anyone from the department? Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Mr. Ayers.
So what are the current regs?
Currently, there are no regulations that tell us how we respond to it. We have it in guidance. In guidance, we have a structured decision-making tool that, depending on a number of different factors, either have a 24-hour, a 48-hour, or a 5 working-day response. So all this is doing is adding a new section to that that says if the child comes in under the age of 2, then they automatically get the 24-hour response. So it doesn't change anything, it's just actually modifying their tool. This would be the first time it ever came into a code, which is one of the reasons that it's a Section 1 bill, and then also promulgating regulations.
And would it not be accurate to further answer to that? what we're trying to get to is a little more uniformity across all the jurisdictions in the Commonwealth. And we're seeing some that are a little more diligent than others, shall we say.
Mr. Chair, that would be the intent of the three-branch work is, we have 120 departments, and they handle things in multiple different ways, and this would allow us to provide some uniformity to that.
So the question? Yes, sir.
So 24 hours is a lot better than 48,
Yes, sir.
not near as good as 5 or 3. Is there any, we always are concerned when we set a ceiling that we're not also creating a floor. Is there anything about this that would encourage agencies or you or your people to take the 20, wait till tomorrow to do something if you get a call at 9 in the morning?
No, sir. Mr. Chair, Delegate Bell, in response to your question, what this actually does is it actually encourages them to do something that we have seen in our review of the data, that they were actually waiting 5 days. So we are taking that option away from them and making them go within 24 hours. It doesn't say you wait until the next day. And we actually used to have immediately, and then they didn't like immediately, so they changed the immediate to the specific hours. So we have changed this multiple times over the years.
Further question?
Mr.
Delegate
Chairman.
Pease.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just so I understand, Carl, you don't believe that this would put any added burden on those local departments to perform the work that they are already doing? In other words, by advancing the timing, we wouldn't necessarily create a sort of an additional fiscal stress on that local department that would necessitate maybe additional workers in that regard?
Right, Mr. Chair, Delegate Pease, what we did is it is intentionally written for valid complaints. We did not touch the criteria for what is considered a valid complaint, so it doesn't expand anything to the local department. We just changed the timeframe and said, these are vulnerable children, we want to get out there as soon as we
In your
possibly.
daily work schedule, this is now a higher priority.
Absolutely, that's exactly what it says.
Any further questions from the committee? Anyone in the audience have heard on Senate Bill 868? We have a motion to report and refer. No public testimony, no further questions. Committee members record your vote on the board on the motion to report. Senate Bill 868. All members voting declare to be reported. The measures reported 19 to nothing. Senator, did you want to do 876 next?
Yes, sir.
And I will say, Senator, we have communication. They would like to see this upstairs if we act favorably on the policy.
Okay, very, very good. This is the Kinship Guardian Assistance. It's the second year you have seen this. What this does is if a child is in foster care and a relative comes forward and agrees to go through the foster care training and will be a foster care parent for at least 6 months, and then agrees to a permanency arrangement as determined by a family law judge, that relative would be eligible to receive foster care payments to support the child. This is an opportunity to provide permanency for the child. We have a lot of data that tells us children do better when they are living with relatives, we have better outcomes. As far as I believe, and I think many in the audience would believe as well, this is long overdue. The department can absorb whatever costs are associated with this. There was an initial statement that the cost would be approximately $44,000, but the department can absorb that, as I've been advised. So I respectfully ask that we pass this bill. The Family Foundation supports it, as well as local service department, the Association of Local Social Services, and other groups as well.
And Senator, your measure currently has language on it that the House typically does not find acceptable, so I hope you will not be adverse to amending the bill, striking lines 338 through 340, the term that the House calls the clause. The effect of that, just let the folks in the public know, if a bill passes with a clause on it that says this doesn't become law unless it's in the budget, and what happens, it goes into the state code books with a little asterisk at the end. So it becomes part of the law, but not really. And from a legal perspective, it's very problematic if you're in a court of law trying to pursue something and you have to produce that year's state budget to verify that, yes, this is actually in effect. This language harkens back to the Chichester era of the Senate. And the House has resisted it ever since, but the Senate has insisted on putting it on bills ever since.
I believe this is in the Senate.
Without objection, we will amend the bill by striking lines 338 through 340. policy, the motion would be to report and refer to appropriations. So Delegate Bell.
A couple of questions for the patron.
Yes.
Senator, so there is a, wide, unofficial care for family members' children. Virginia, not done through any social service agency or anything at all, it's just somebody's having a bad month, week, year, and they take in their nephew or their niece or their grandbaby or something. What if any impact does this have on that? They're not even in the books anywhere.
No, Mr. Chairman, that would not have an impact. This bill affects children who are already in the foster care system. So children who have never entered the system are not covered. That this bill, it doesn't expand to that scope.
Further question?
Would they now be eligible? In other words, one reason families do it is to avoid having the whole oversight. It's just that they.
Again, it would be children who actually entered the foster care system. And we've had a discussion on your question, and because of federal rules, the families who were diverted, if you will, would not be eligible for this because of the federal rule. And we are drawing down federal funds for this.
Further question? All right, those in the audience will be heard on Senate Bill 876 before committee takes action. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. My name is Kate Cox. I'm with Newfound Families, the Virginia Foster Adoptive and Kinship Association. We are very much in support of this legislation and applaud Senator Favola for 2 years of going forward with this. We also want to point out that in Illinois, when we initiated the subsidized custody program such as this, there was a $1.2 million cost savings administratively. Also, the North Carolina Department of Social Services recently had a study by Legislative Services, and they predicted a $700,000 administrative cost savings. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Allison Gilbreth, Voices for Virginia's Children. We are in strong support of this bill and thank Senator Favola for bringing it forward. We think that KMGAP provides another means for children to exit foster care system when adoption is not an option. It also promotes a sense of belonging to their family. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Valerie LaRue from Virginia Poverty Law Center. We are also in support of this bill. We believe it will save money in the long run. Children will not be put on the adoption list and stay there forever. And so this is a way to help move them into a normalized, permanent family situation where ultimately they'll be productive members of society and part of a family rather than causing, having needs throughout their life. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Kevin Maurer, Virginia Catholic Conference, we support the bill as well.
Vicki Cruzy, speaking on behalf of Virginia Association for Local Human Services Officials, we support the bill also.
All right. Other others?
Mr. Chairman, I would just clarify that the cost savings, a lot of that is at the local level because the ongoing case management services are not needed once a permanency arrangement has been established.
Delegate Pogue, you have a question?
Well, actually, I have a comment. I actually had 2 sisters in foster care. They had different fathers. And when they left my home, it was because they had found a placement with one of the sisters' grandparents or grandmother who had agreed to take them both and raise them for another 10 years. And they both now are my Facebook friends, and they're very successful. They're in their 30s now.
So is that a motion to report and refer?
Sounded like one to me.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any other questions, discussion, or comments on 876 before we act on the motion to report and refer to appropriations? If not, committee members support the vote on the board.
Okay,
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Chairman, I'll keep going.
Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry, that bill is reported and referred. Senate Bill 894, I believe you would care to take up next.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I believe Delegate Holt has a similar bill, but I have a note that my bill needs to conform to his, so.
Sarah, would you explain the differences and then we'll conform from
If you look in your document, it's the first bill that's similar bills. You'll see there are 3 changes there, differences between the bills. The first is that on line 34, this bill includes a form. We would change that to an and. On line 34 also, we would strike the word critical incidents and change that to serious injuries. And then also insert serious injuries on line 36.
And the senator's fine with us making those changes to conform?
Yes, sir.
All right, without objection, we'll adopt those amendments to conform the bill by general consensus. Hearing none, it's properly before us. It is now identical to Douglas Wilkes bill we acted upon earlier in the session in a positive manner. Then moved properly seconded to report Senate Bill 894 as amended. Anyone in the audience be heard on the measure slow the train?
Excuse me, the staff is
All
asking
right.
me something.
Yes, ma'am.
My amendment, I believe, was to conform to delegate hopes. It was not. Mr. Chairman.
Sidebar.
May we have a conversation? Mr. Chairman, there was one other amendment that I guess is in addition to delegate hopes.
He didn't fix it.
Apparently. More people keep reading the bill. This is coming from the department.
Okay.
So I will ask
Dan, if you have an additional amendment we might want to consider.
Mr. Chair, it would be 2 line amendments. The first is on page 1, line 34, after defined in, strike forward. The second is also on page 1, line 34, after regulations, insert adopted by the board pursuant to section 37.2-400.
These are just technical amendments, I would suggest procedural. Correct. Everybody hears the amendments proposed without objection, adopted by general consensus. Is there any audience to be heard on the now further amendment, Senate Bill 894, before the committee takes action? Committee members, I believe I heard a motion earlier to report. Seconded. If that still is valid, the members can record your vote on the board. All members voting care to be recorded. The bill is reported 19 to nothing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Let's see, 1149.
1149. This is a really good bill. The commission on It's a really good bill.
Now you go.
The Commission on Youth studied this. We had a subcommittee on TANF, which I chaired, and the purpose of that subcommittee was to look at the expenditure of TANF dollars in a way to ensure that individuals who are TANF participants or recipients would actually be able to achieve some self-sufficiency once they exited the TANF program. So what this bill does is after an individual has participated in TANF and enters a educational program, the current law only provides support services such as child care subsidies and case management services for 12 months. This bill extends the 12 months to 24 months. The majority of the dollars needed to fund this would be coming from TANF. Only $24,000 are needed from the general fund. And the Senate budget has the $24,000. We have evidence, lots of evidence that suggests individuals with a 2-year degree or a certificate or some completion of a trade license makes much more money than an individual who does not complete that. And 12 months was not enough, and we wanted to extend it to 24. It was a unanimous recommendation from the Commission on Youth.
Mr. Chair,
Delegate Bell?
we're trying to do the ones that are sort of quick and easy and uncontroversial and save over the ones maybe for subcommittee. I would suggest this might be one of those that ask you to go back for the day.
1149, 5 for the day without objection. 5 for the day.
Does that mean it will come back, or?
On Tuesday.
On Tuesday, okay.
Unless I put it to a subcommittee, which may be Monday, we'll make that decision later today so that you'll have ample time to.
Okay, very good, thank you. Okay, 1437, Council on Aging.
Committee members, Senate Bill 1437.
It's, all this bill does is it directs the Council on Aging to develop strategies to improve the nutritional health to prevent malnutrition among older adults. This is, clearly falls within the scope of the Council on Aging. The Council on Aging does a lot of this work already. They would prefer to have it clearly articulated. The AARP is in support of the measure, has our other groups that continually advocate for the health of our older individuals. There is no budget impact on this, and I respectfully ask that the committee approve it.
Committee members, Senate Bill 1437, any questions of the patron? Anyone in the audience be heard on Senate Bill 1437? Committee members, what is your pleasure? And understand if your pleasure is to report, we're going to do it by voice vote because our system is once again down. Staff will be recording it. What is your pleasure? Properly second to report Senate Bill 1437. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Measure is reported unanimously. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My last bill, Senate Bill
1504.
1504. What this does is it just asks the Virginia Health Workforce Development Authority to consult with the schools of medicine and other health professional schools regarding curriculum issues related to geriatric health care. Again, the problem we're trying to solve here is there's a growing aging population, and we just wanted to make sure that those in the health professions field actually have access to courses or any curriculum tweaks that might be necessary to keep up with the population that's going to be accessing health care at a higher rate than we've ever had before. There's no fiscal impact. I spoke to the chair of the Virginia Health Workforce Development Authority, Senator Barker. I respectfully ask that this bill pass.
Bill Castaldi, you have a question or comment?
Mr. Chairman, I'm just curious, so is the intent that this curriculum would be included in nursing schools and medical schools? I mean, help me out with curriculum.
Well, we use the word curriculum, but it was not intended to be hard and fast. We wanted conversations to take place between the Health Workforce Authority and the different schools to figure out what was going on, what they are currently teaching regarding any geriatric specialty tracks, and to jointly determine if, some additional classwork or coursework is needed. That was really the intent. Maybe I wouldn't take curriculum literally, although I apologize, that is the word that's in the bill.
Thanks,
All right, any further questions or comments from the committee? Any of the audience be heard on Senate Bill 1504? Committee members, what is your pleasure? Move to report. Move properly second to report Senate Bill 1504. We think we got the system back, so members, record your vote on the board on the motion to report. All members voted who care to be recorded.
Mine isn't working, so
Aird is an aye. Garrett is an, I'm sorry. Garrett Edmonds. Aye. All members' votes properly been recorded. Those reported 17-2. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Donovan, is your next senator on the list, and you were a busy lady as well this session.
Mr. Chairman, if I understand correctly, 1024 and 1232 are identical to House bills.
And we have passed them over. Yeah.
So that brings us to Senate Bill 1009.
Committee members, give your attention to Senate Bill 1009.
Yes, sir, and I believe that this bill is very similar to a House bill as well, but not exactly identical, and I'm getting to the detail here. It is identical to Delegate Garrett's bill, but mine has an emergency clause on it. That was, I don't have this bill.
We've done this one already.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, thank you very much. So this is now Senate Bill 1230. That is opiate prescribing electronic prescriptions, similar to a House bill, and I believe we have amendments to conform my bill to that House bill.
So committee members, we've acted on 1009. We now need to give our attention to 1230. And Sarah has amendments that will conform it to an earlier House measure.
Yes.
Sarah, please.
Senate Bill 1230 is in your document under the similar bills. This bill is similar but not identical to House Bill 2165, Delegate Pillion's bill, which reported 22-0 from health welfare institutions. There were 5 line amendments would be necessary to conform the bills. The first line amendment is on page 3, line 134. After electronic application, we would strike in accordance with 21 CFR Part 1300. Second amendment, line 135, after data file, we would insert semicolon, Schedule 2 through 5 prescriptions shall be transmitted in accordance with 21 CFR Part 1300. Those 2 amendments are technical. The next 3 amendments are to the enactment clause. Page 6, line 341, after dental association, strike and. Slightly farther down that line, after health plans, insert comma and the Virginia Pharmacy Association. And then on line 345, after November 1, 2018 period, insert, in addition, the work group shall evaluate hardships on prescribers, the inability of prescribers to comply with the deadline for electronic prescribing, and make recommendations to the General Assembly for any extension or exemption processes relative to compliance or disruptions due to natural or man-made disasters or technology gaps, failures, or interruptions of service.
And so the adoption of these amendments would have in the same posture as Delegate John Bell's measure we acted upon.
Delegate Pillions?
Pillions, I'm sorry, okay.
2165, Delegate Pillion.
Flip the page here, sorry. Delegate Pillion's measure. Without objection, we'll adopt those amendments that will conform it to the measure we heard previously. Without objection, it's now properly conformed. Then moved properly seconded to report Senate Bill 1230. Anyone with audience to be heard on the matter before the committee takes action? Committee members record your vote on the board on the motion to report Senate Bill 1230. All members voted, declare to be recorded. Reported 18 to nothing. Senator Dyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The members of the committee, 1242, qualified advanced directed facilitators. Another bill we will conform to a very similar House bill.
Sarah, please.
Senate Bill 1242 is similar but not identical to House Bill 1747, Delegate Advantage Bill, which reported 22-0. There are 2 line amendments necessary to conform the bills. First amendment, page 3, line 151, after training programs, you would strike are deemed to and insert may. Slightly farther down the line, after be approved, insert by the Department of Health.
Without objection, we'll adopt those amendments to conform the bill. Hearing none, it's properly amended. Anyone in the audience to be heard on Senate Bill 1242 now amended before the committee takes action? Committee members, the motion is to report. Record your vote on the board, please. All members voted. The bill is reported 18 to nothing. And Senator Donovan, I think 1403 is your last measure for this morning?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you so much. And this is another bill that we will conform to a House bill. This is rescheduling of cannabidiol oil by the Board of Pharmacy, and I think there are just some adjustments to the bill that have been made in the process.
This bill, if you're looking at documents in the bills that are new to HWI, I have not yet heard this bill. It is, however, similar to House Bill 1799, Delegate Advantage bill that went through the House Courts of Justice Committee. There are 2 amendments that need to be made to conform the 2 bills. If you'll look in your docket, you can see one is to add a new section 54.1-3408.05, which I'm not going to read because it's long. The other one is a line amendment. And I believe there are some additional technical amendments to this bill. One moment. There would also be 5 technical amendments.
Procedurally, let's do this first to conform to Delegate O'Bannon's bill that was heard in court. So without objection, there'll be a substitute to be before us on that. So that's now properly before us, and now we will consider the new amendments brought by the department.
I'm not sure these came from the department, but they are technical. They would, show me the right spot, on line 99. I'm sorry, these are slightly off. One moment. I'm sorry, I think they're drawing the Delegate Advantage bill. What these will do is just clarify that when we're talking about the order, we're talking about final order, and some technical, they're
process in place where whatever medicine it is, it gets approved by the FDA, can be fast-tracked through to the pharmacy approval process. And so I think the board's comfortable with it. They did request some technical amendments to 1799, which was my bill. So I hope we'll conform hers to mine and then add those technical amendments and leave that.
Without objection, we'll adopt the technical amendments proposed by the board. Hearing none, the bill is properly amended and now properly before the committee. Any of the audience to be heard on the amended version, Senate Bill 1403, before the committee takes action? Dr. O'Bannon, you have heard, we have a motion to report, seconded. Any members report your vote on the board on the motion to report?
Yeah, I'll be right up.
All members voted, declare to be reported. The others reported, 18 to nothing. Thanks, sir. Senator Hanger, you've been quite patient there.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you, Chairman. I've had a relaxing time here this morning.
You can come sit anytime, Emmett. Love to have you, brother.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'll start with Senate Bill 1005, 1005. This deals with services provided by our community services boards. It is similar to a bill you previously looked at. Just a brief explanation. Delegate Farrell and I serve on the Mental Health Commission. In fact, we serve together on a subcommittee dealing with the services provided. And our hope in working with the administration is to take what they call the STEP program and make recommendations that would be implemented so that we'll have uniform services throughout the Commonwealth provided by our community services boards. The action of this committee was to pare back what our original recommendation was, I think primarily because of cost constraints. The bill that you have in front of you that the Senate passed has the emergency services that we would same-day mental health screening services and subject to availability of funds appropriated outpatient primary care screening and monitoring services. And the monies are included, Mr. Chairman, in the budget to accomplish that. In addition, my bill, and their enactment clauses, those will be in place by July 1, 2018. The difference is where I think you all pared it back somewhat, and mine would add additional services that we hope as we work on retooling our community service boards with uniformity statewide, at least 8 additional services, all that bear some cost, but with an enactment clause that says they will not become effective unless availability of funds appropriated to them and effective July 1, 2021. I've talked with Delegate Farrell, and it appears that it may be in order if you all are interested in just conforming my bill to the bill you all previously acted upon, but I wouldn't want to take my acceptance of that as a willingness to completely agree with that action.
So under some protest, if I understand, that the senator is marginally amenable to our conforming measures so that we can get the ball down the road.
Right. My point, Mr. Chairman, sometimes these bills work, we can work out a few things in conference, and I think this is one of them.
And I will say at the committee, we do have communications from the appropriations staff. They do want to see it up on the 9th floor as well. So the proper motion, if you see favorably first, let's get things in proper posture without objection. We'll adopt amendments to Senate Bill 1005 to conform it to its House counterpart. Hearing none, it's now mirror of the House version. And the motion would need to then be report and refer as amended to appropriations. Anyone in the audience to be heard on the matter before the committee takes action? And move properly seconded to report and refer Senate Bill 1005. Members, record your vote on the board on the motion. All members voted to declare to be reported. Members reported 17 to nothing. Thank you, Senator. And another.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also have in front of you Senate Bill 1048 dealing with death certificates, and it also is a bill that has actually turned out to be a lot more complicated than I thought it might be. Streamlining court order changes to death certificates so we could have some basically ease that process. I think Delegate Wilt had a bill dealing with this same subject, and you all may have a substitute to basically incorporate what the stakeholders have been working all through the session to come to an agreement.
So will this become a substitute between the two versions? This is different from what we saw earlier, but different from your original. Right.
I would note that the House companion to this, House Bill 2276, Delegate Wilt's bill, did not go through HWI. It was heard by the House Courts of Justice Committee. The substitute will make the two bills identical as they are moving forward coming out of.
Given one is being distributed, just tell us again what this will do, please.
Okay, this was offered on behalf of the funeral directors, and there's been concern because simple clerical type corrections in these death certificates have taken, in many instances, a tremendous amount of time, and they need to be able to timely have these corrections made. So what this would do, it would still allow as a backstop, if necessary, court action, but in many instances, it would allow the clerk of the court just to administratively take care of these corrections. And there was quite a bit of discussion about this, and I believe with the substitute, the concerns have been addressed, and this will allow basically some, if a number was put in, address wrong, or somebody's name incorrectly put in there, they can be taken care of administratively by the clerk of the court.
And Senator, is that why we've got on line 37 of the substitute, default with the Circuit Court of the City of Richmond, so that it's a case that's heard by the state medical examiner or other vital statistics, they don't have to go file a petition in court in Caroline County, but rather can do it here in Richmond, since it's just correcting technical matters related to the death certificate.
That's correct, and and certainly if the funeral business is up in the valley, they will go to the court up there. Right.
Delegate Pease.
Yes, just very briefly, Mr. Chairman, thank you for your comments. I actually have personal experience with this. Our local funeral director had put the wrong address. They provided all the necessary information to make the technical change. The vital statistics director said no. We had to file a complaint, get a hearing at the circuit court in Hanover to change that issue of the death certificate with the correct address on it. So I think this is a welcome change in the process.
All right. Without objection, we'll adopt the amendment nature of the substitute then presented to the committee. Hearing none. That's the current language now before the committee. Any audience to be heard on Senate Bill 1048 as amended?
Julia Carlin on behalf of the funeral directors. We've worked very closely with Division of Vital Statistics and Delegate Beebe, who brought forth many of these changes, and we hope to support the matter. It's completely non-controversial matter.
Any questions of the patron? Any other comments? It's been moved properly second to report as amended Senate Bill 1048. Committee members of the court to vote on the board on the motion to report as amended. All members voted to care to be recorded. It was reported 17 to 9. Senator, you're on a roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Senate Bill 1484 deals with our prescription monitoring program. As you may recall, Mr. Chairman, last year we passed a bill, I carried a bill that essentially allowed medical and pharmacy directors who were employed by managed care plans to access this prescription monitoring program. But when the regulations were put in place, it basically didn't go as far as we had intended. Mr. Chairman, as I think as this committee would be aware, substance abuse, prescription drug, opiate problems are certainly an epidemic right now. This has been a very successful program, and what this will do, it will allow MCOs the same level of real-time access that their physician and pharmacists on the outside were given, and essentially that's what it does. The operative language is on page 2 of the bill, lines 81 through 83, but it will essentially allow them these access by real-time access by these managed care organizations.
Any questions of the patron on 1484? Anyone in the audience be heard on the measure? Move report. Second. There are crickets in it. It's been moved properly seconded. Report Senate Bill 1484. If there's no further discussion, committee members of the court to vote on the board on the motion to report. All members voted to care to be recorded. Bill is reported 16 to 0.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Senator Daniel. We'll see you Tuesday or Monday.
Child care exemptions next week?
It'll either be in subcommittee Monday evening or full committee Tuesday morning. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. All right. Senator Marsden. Maybe your last senator we have before us this morning, so.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 1027.
Senate Bill 1027, committee members. Committee members, I will say, if we act favorably upon this, we have a notification we need to go up to appropriations. Senator, yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. This is a reenactment of a bill that passed out of the House and Senate last year, allowing for the processing and distribution of CBD, cannabidiol, and THCA oils for those who have a diagnosis of intractable epilepsy. These are non-psychoactive oils. They cannot get you high, if you will. And the only difference in this bill this year is we did add one small component because we're likely to only get perhaps one of these facilities, which we've authorized 5, one in each health department district in the state, but we're likely to only perhaps get one, is to allow for some delivery by the staff of by the facility itself, the manufacturer or processor themselves, to deliver it to the parent or the child directly. And so with the bill was had a reenactment clause so that the pharmacy board could create regulations. We had 3 meetings over the summer, and they dealt with regulations and completed them in 5 areas. They established fees to make the program self-sufficient. They dealt with requirements for practitioners and patients. Established requirements, the requirements for establishing a competitive application process for pharmaceutical processors was put in place, and requirements for pharmaceutical processor personnel. And the last one was the operation of the pharmaceutical processor. And as you know, these facilities are designed to be all in one place as to where the product is grown, processed, and distributed from. And Mr. Chairman, that is the bill passed out of the House unanimously last year. We're looking forward to getting going. The regulations will go out for a 280-day, once if the bill is signed and approved by the legislature and signed by the governor, it will go out on a 280-day process of public review before it comes into the ability to move forward.
Any questions from the committee?
Mr. Chair.
Sure.
I appreciate your work on this, Senator Marsden. I'm just curious, we now are on the verge, I think, of having an FDA-approved medication, which will be a real medication. Curious how you might view that as affecting this process.
You know, this, Mr. Delegate O'Bannon, the important thing is getting relief to these young people. And if this new FDA-approved drug, I know Epidiolex, I think, is the brand name for it. If that comes in and that's useful and what have you, that's great. That's all we want here. This isn't about getting a bill. This is about getting relief to people who need it.
Right.
Delegate Bell.
Mr. Chair, I spent days on this over in courts last year, the year before, and I'm not understanding why, if we're just removing the enactment or the reenactment, why do we need all this? I don't remember. I see page upon page of italics, a lot of words.
This is basically the same bill as last year. I think it's still in the italics because it's hasn't been passed yet.
Mr. Chair, I guess more generally, I would suggest that maybe we send this over to courts. That's where it all came from a year ago, and there was some real strong feelings about every sentence and comma. And we can go through it that way in this committee, but I'd suggest maybe before doing that and sending it to courts anyway, just send it over to courts.
Second.
We have a motion properly presented and seconded that this bill would be re-referred, or referred, I should say, Senate Bill 1027 to Courts of Justice. Discussion on the motion before the committee. This is a voice vote. All those in favor of referring the measure to Courts of Justice, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. And I would say to those in the audience, Senator, I don't know of any opposition to the underlying measure.
This
It's
is-
just, we need to get it right legally as we go forward with this, that I think all the committee embraces the objective of the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's important to get the, to get this right.
Right.
This is a policy change, and we need it right. Thank you.
And the court saw it last time around, probably best would be that venue as well.
Very good.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time. Ms. Stuber, I see you brought a group in. I see your head taken out. We'd like to recognize them before they leave, if you could. Well, tell us who they are.
It's a group of students from several different foreign countries. They come
Okay.
every year. They're exchange students attending school in the Northern Virginia area.
Okay. Well, good morning.
Anand from Thailand, Alina from Pakistan, Fateh from Armenia, Maria from Ukraine, from Georgia.
Well, good to have you all down this morning observing a democratic process in action, and frequently has been compared to the making of sausage. If you like sausage, if you like the law, you should not watch either be made. But hope that we've been of some assistance to your learning process. Good to have you down. Welcome. Thank you. Sarah, do we have any Senate bills that were very similar? I will say to the committee, in communication on the docket for this morning, staff did notify senators if they had a measure that was similar to, and they would not be adverse to our conforming to the previous House measure, that they didn't necessarily have to appear this morning, that if we acted favorably upon the House version and they agreed with that language, we could conform. And Sarah, so do we have any that would fit in that category?
We have a couple. If you look at Senate Bill 974, Senator Lucas's bill.
Reading numbers 974, Delegate Lucas.
This bill is similar but not identical to House Bill 1675, which is Delegate Bullova's bill, reported 22-0. The differences are that Senator Lucas's bill puts a requirement that the department make information and resources on palliative care available on its website, places that in the code.
So without objection, we will conform to Delegate Bullova's bill. Hearing no objections, is now properly conformed. And moved properly seconded to report as amended, Senate Bill 974. If there's no discussion from the committee or testimony from the audience, committee members report to vote on the board on the motion to report as amended. Everybody voted and cares to be recorded. Bill was reported 18-0. Next.
Next bill would be Senate Bill 975, also Senator Lucas's bill. This bill deals with pre-admission
Have a
screening.
motion to conform. Hearing no objection to that, we'll conform it to earlier House version that was by Delegate who?
Senator Lucas.
No, the
Sorry,
delegate.
House bill was 2331 by Delegate Heretic.
Okay. So without objection, it's now properly amended to reflect Delegate Heretic's language.
Second.
And as soon as the system catches up with us, it likes to freeze up again. It's gone again. So. No, we're on Senate Bill 975. It's okay. She's got to get her papers here. Troy's coming back. All right, on motion to report as amended, Senate Bill 975. All in favor of the motion to report signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. That measure is unanimously reported. Senate Bill 1178 will go by for the day. We had a very similar version previously, but there may be an additional amendment to that, so we'll have the senator come for that. Give your attention to Senate Bill 1180, Senator Chapin. That is similar to House Bill what, Sarah?
Senate Bill 1180 is similar but not identical to House Bill 2167, Delegate Pilliams' bill, reported 22-0 from this committee.
Okay, without objection, we will adopt the amendments to conform it to 2167. Hearing none, it's now properly, the language has been adopted. And committee members, what is your pleasure? Moved properly seconded, report amendment, mixture of substitute or amendment for 2167. Anyone in the audience be heard on the matter? If not, committee members, record your vote. maybe on the board? Okay. On 1180, and that is now reported 17 to nothing. Do we have any more, Sarah?
There's one more, and this bill is Senate Bill 1546, Senator Vogel's bill. It is similar but not identical to House Bill 1610, Delegate
Motion
Jarrett's
to
bill.
conform.
But
Oh, yeah.
one thing, there are 4 differences between the bills. The first two, and you'll see in your docket, the first 2 amendments we would probably want to make, they're technical. The other 2 are actually amendments that the Senate will make to the House bill to conform. They're also technical amendments that, so we don't want to conform, we just want to make 2 line amendments in this committee to keep.
So if you make 2 line amendments to the bill as before us, it will then be identical to what the Senate action is going to be.
Yes.
So, okay, Sarah, everybody understand? And did you read those? They were just technical amendments, correct?
They're correcting some chemical names of drugs. I can read them if you want.
Yeah, if you would, Sarah.
Okay, and they're also available in your docket if you'd like to look at them. The first amendment would be on page 4, line 207, after 25C-NBOME, strike 2C and insert 25C. The other amendment would be on line 209, after 25B-NBOME, strike 2B and insert 25B.
Everybody understand those amendments as proposed? Hearing no objection, we'll adopt the measure. The bill is now in the proper fashion. Anyone in the audience to be heard on Senate Bill 1546 as amended before we take action? What is your pleasure? Move to report. Seconded. All those in favor, signify. Well, yeah. Record on the board if we can get there. We'll always need to be going. All members voted to care to be recorded. Bill is reported 16 to nothing. We have no more Senate patrons. We have no more bills that are similar. I will say, committee members, give attention just for a reference, 1577. You may want to look at the history of that measure. Within the Senate committee process, they made a particular recommendation. There was a floor substitute that kind of negated everything the committee process had done over in the Senate. So I suspect when we get that, if we get it before us, if it's on the subcommittee, it's going to be a little different. So just keep that in mind. Committee members and those in the audience, my current anticipation, any bills that weren't heard this morning will either be heard in subcommittee to be determined later today, which would tentatively be meeting Monday evening, and then maybe sub 1, 2, or 3. That's also to be determined. And then we will have full committee Tuesday morning, and I would anticipate we should be able to clear the docket. And so we're in that posture. Any questions? Anything for the good of the cause? If not, thank you for your hard work. The meeting will rise.